Well, I guess we can. Hey, everyone! By the way, welcome to episode 140 of Molehill Mountain. A
Yeah.
little late to start the stopwatch at this point.
Well,
Um,
we can start the stopwatch here, and then that way I can keep track of all the topics going forward. But,
Suzanne's saying try your library. You know what kind of ticks me off? There's this service called Calypso or something, which is
Mhm.
a streaming service like Netflix, uh, which is free if you are a card-carrying member of participating libraries. Unfortunately, none of my libraries are participating, which is a shame because their catalog is pretty good if you have broad taste in movies. They also have a bunch of documentaries and educational films and stuff like that,
yeah.
and a bunch of stuff that I'd actually like to watch. But the Pacific Beach Taylor branch and the Linda Vista Library, neither of them participate. So, oh,
Yeah.
well.
Well, my library has tons. The libraries around here, they have tons of movies that you can borrow, but I'm not aware of any that have video games that you can borrow. Which would actually be kind of cool if you could borrow video games from the library.
I think you can. Some of
Yeah,
them, anyway.
some of them you can probably. I can't think. I don't recall seeing any video games at my libraries.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I would love more video game rental options because now that Blockbuster is dead and Hollywood Video is dead and everything, it's Redbox or GameFly, and GameFly is unreliable, and Redbox only has games for the very most recent systems, and usually it's only the hottest new releases. It's like I don't want to play the latest Call of Duty piece of garbage or whatever's coming out on those systems. It's just like I would love to be able to just go somewhere and rent a PS2 game or a GameCube game. I would totally rent games every week if there was a place that did that.
I never remember to actually look when I go to the library.
Yeah,
Um, I really should. So,
yeah. I don't go to the library often enough. I wish I did, but yeah.
I made a joke on Twitter a while back about what's the lowest note I can hit, and I made a joke about it's the key the furthest left on my keyboard. Hit. I'm funny. I have a 5-octave keyboard, so it's a C. Um, and then one of Ono, who's actually sings with the San Diego chorus, says, "All right, wise ass, what's the lowest note you can sing?" And it's actually a more complex. I was thinking about doing a Q and Andrew on that because I haven't done one of those in a while, and I found it a more complicated question than just giving you know, this is the note. This is the because what your lowest note really. I mean, it's almost like, dude, how much can you bench? How many reps do you want? It really depends. Have I been working out all day? Am I feeling okay? It's a hard question to answer. It's usually like a range, or it's like, well, single rep maximum kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Lowest note hit. I thought rather than describe it or just like me doing one of these like do do where I lost my place. Where's E flat? Do and just working my way down until I can't get. That's boring. So I thought maybe I'll multi-track the top three parts to a couple different songs to uh, give an idea of what my comfortable lower vocal range is, rather than just saying I can sing this note. Actually, give some examples of some lower bass songs
Yeah.
that I could sing. And I was doing some research, and I have a pretty low voice, and most of the songs I know I don't. There's like no songs in barbershop that I know that I can't sing. I can pretty bass in barbershop. If you can sing an F, which is do, if you can get down here, even if you're kind of pushing down there, you can sing pretty much every barbershop song there is. There are very few that go much lower than that. Um, so I was looking around at some songs, and I actually found one that goes lower than I can sing. It's Hushabye Mountain, and I'm not sure who originally did it, but it goes down to an A below contra C, which I'm like, and I made a joke on Twitter about it. I'm like, can you sing this? And I say, yeah, if I'm sick and it's 4 in the morning. Because that one is sail far. What is it? Sail away, but far away from Lullaby Bay, do 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 do. Yeah, it's that. It's that low. See, I'm completely just graveling the hell out of that. I have no presence or resonance at that pitch. So it's like, well, I can kind of squeak out a noise, but that's not really singing it. So that's, and I'm probably making this like way more complicated than a video needs to be. It's like just E flat. There you go. Just just a good solid E flat. Just bah. There we go. So
All right.
Waiter, percolator, I love coffee. Java Jive. It's a good E flat song. Otritsu doesn't sound like you can sing that low. You can make the noise at least. Yeah, exactly. I can't really, A. Sorry. Ba, ba. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And some vowels would be easier than others. Like a good A is probably the easier one to do at that pitch. But yeah, that's not really singable. That's maybe if I'm doing a kind of a doo-woppy bass, like do 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 do, that kind of thing where I can just kind of touch low real quick. But actually posting at that low A, there are few people who can do that. There are some people who can do that, but I am not one of them. Not unless I'm sick at 4 in the morning. So Snake says I can bench a small fat American child. Don't want to brag or anything. That's right. I can outlift most 3-year-olds. So
yeah, I can lift my kids, or my youngest 3, and that's about it. Well, I can pick up and carry all of my kids, but my youngest 3 I can lift up over my head, but yeah, I don't I don't work out, as you can probably tell, but I probably should work out. But yeah,
I can bench 4 plates, one right after the other. Actually, what's funny is how different machines are different. Like my single rep max for just flat bar bench pressing is probably like 3 to 315 or something like that. So good 3 plates or something. But if you do like one of those, it's not a pulley machine, but it's kind of a levered machine where you load plates on the side and they move independently. There's no actual bar. The bar weighs about 45 pounds. I've done 4 plates on that before, and I was like, oh my God, I just pressed 4 plates. And I thought, well, yeah, but I'm missing a 45-pound bar here, so it's not as impressive as it otherwise might be. So,
yeah.
So, all right. I want to talk about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, because I played that this week, and So this was a game done by Ninja Theory before Microsoft purchased it, and from what I understand, it was independently developed by Ninja Theory. And well, I'm just going to come out and say I didn't like playing the game. There's a lot you remember kind of my reaction to Us, the movie
Yeah.
Us last week, where I didn't really cotton to the movie, but I really admired a lot about it. Same
Hmm.
kind of deal with same kind of deal with Hellblade. I didn't really enjoy playing it. I don't think it's a very fun game to play, but there's a lot about how it was made that I really like. Um, for example, the protagonist, Senua, is she suffers from some sort of psychosis, and this manifests in delusions and hearing voices. And how they represent that in the game, the voices part, is there's constantly little voices talking, uh, talking about relaying her mental state, observing the things that are going on around her, uh, exemplifying her second guessing and insecurities of what's happening. Because she'll come up to she'll be seeing a monster, and some of the voices will be, it's okay, it's going to be okay, and another one's like, no, hell, it's not real. Yes, it's very real. Let's run, let's stay, let's. So you have that internal battle dramatized by the voices in her head, and that's a really
Yeah.
interesting approach to um, uh, showing off this character's psychosis.
Yeah.
And it also serves several purposes. One, it allows you a window into the character's internal thoughts and feelings without having the character literally narrating.
Hmm.
It also can subtly push the player in the right direction. Occasionally, they'll drop hints like, "Look up." There's something interesting up there. Look up, or focus on that. That's probably something important. Do you think she noticed the thing over there? Yeah, they do that sometimes. It's kind of a little mini hint guide. And that's not a bad idea. But it's also kind of annoying,
Yeah.
as I'm sure it would be if you heard voices. But because I wasn't really enjoying playing the game, it really came across as sitting in a movie theater with a bunch of people who are talking throughout the whole thing. It was really annoying. Um, I don't know how exactly they would do that and not make it annoying. I think I would have been fine with it if I was actually enjoying the game. And
Yeah.
and I think some of the reasons I didn't enjoy playing the game is there's really not much to do. Um, there's a lot. The game world is very linear, almost oppressively so. It's
Hmm.
a very well designed world. I like the look of it. I like the aesthetic. I like it. It looks very nice. I mean, just visually, it's very pretty. But you're just kind of walking, and there's nothing to do. There's not the only thing to collect are like lore runes of lore. You'll see these little wooden uh, statues with a rune on it, and if you stare at it really hard, you'll hear the voice of some dude you once knew tell you a story and give you some background into the story. That's the only collectible in the game.
Huh.
There's no platforming. You just walk around. You do climb up ladders, and occasionally you'll walk across a narrow beam, but there's no real platforming. There's not much find your way around the environment. It's just go that way. Um, there aren't enemies roaming around to fight. It's more along the lines of like the original Uncharted, where occasionally you'd come across a room and it'd be like, here's where the waves of enemies come in, and you'd enter the room and wave after wave of enemies would come in and you'd beat them all up, and then when it's done you just move on. That's how this one
Yeah.
works. You reach a designated fight area. So a lot of the game is there's just not that much to do. Um, the story is actually really good. Unfortunately, most of it is in the runes of lore. Um, and the problem with that is you have to kind of stand around with your thumb up your butt and listen to the story that the rune of lore tells you, because if you wander too far away, you can't hear it anymore, and then the voices in your head interrupt it. So I really would have preferred if I stare at the runestone and it starts playing, I could go, because I ran through the whole game. Short game though, thankfully, it's only about 5 hours.
Yeah.
But the combat is pretty good, but it almost has the problem that Shenmue has, and where it has this really deep combat system with a ton of combos, but there's only like 3 fights in the entire game. So by the time you get to a fight, you have no idea how to actually fight at all. They Works a little bit better in the sequel, but this game doesn't have it that bad. But you never really feel any need to delve deep into the combo system, which actually is pretty deep, um, because there's no enemies wandering around. You just occasionally get into fights.
Yeah.
Um, but as I said, the aesthetics are great. The animation is gorgeous, and a lot more varied than you would expect. Um, Story is good, but not told as well as it could be, because most players, I think, are going to miss most of it.
Scotty
And
J, he's talking about Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice.
Senua's Sacrifice,
Yeah.
right? And I really like, it works really well. This game has the best parry of any combat system that I can think of. Uh, because an enemy swings at you and you hit the block button at the right time, and she, hits the sword away, and that opens them up from attack. And the way that the everything slows down for a moment to emphasize that she blocked at the right time, and the visual flash that appears, like there's a huge spark that happens when you
Mhm.
clank that weapon away, and that clanging sound effect is it's perfect. I never got tired of that. A lot of games I don't even bother with the parry. Occasionally I'll block, maybe, but this one I parried all the time because it just felt great. And I think they could have expanded on that a bit more.
Yeah.
Um, I also really appreciate they were trying to do something different with that, and I think that is really laudable and admirable. For example, I can't think of another character, video game protagonist suffering from severe psychosis. So that's pretty neat. I have no idea how well they did it, or if the portrayal is in any way insulting or in bad taste. I don't have the background or knowledge or education to know one way or the other, but I get the sense that at the very least the attempt was there. Because if you read the credits and you look at the documentary and stuff, they seem to be very serious about actually speaking with people who suffer from various psychosis, speaking with experts in the field to make sure that they're representing it right. Um, the acting is very good. What's interesting is obviously a very low budget game, because there's like one character, and that's Senua. The other characters are uh, live actors that are just kind of filmed somewhat out of focus to kind of blend them into the scene. But a lot of the visual perception is distorted, almost like if you're watching the game through a kaleidoscope or something, because she perceives reality differently. So it works,
Hmm.
and it was a lot cheaper, I'm sure, than modeling 3 or 4 other characters and modeling, rigging, and animating. So pretty
Yeah.
clever solution, I think. Um, so there's a lot I really admire. Oh, I also really like the fact that the her psychosis is not the problem. It's not portrayed as her source of weakness or her problem. It's the stigma surrounding it,
Yeah.
right? It's not that she hears voices or that she perceives reality different that's the cause of strife in this game. It's the stigma surrounding her psychosis. And I think that is a very nice
Yeah.
angle.
That is,
for
yeah.
for the game to adopt. Unfortunately, I think most of that is kind of lost because, again, the majority of the story is relegated to the runes of lore, whatever they're called. I actually went to Game Facts or something and pulled up a transcribed list of the runes of lore so I could read it. I'm like, wow, that was a pretty good story. It would have worked better if they could have fit that a little bit more organically into the game rather than those weird tape recordings that people leave all over the abandoned space station that's infested by monsters in dead space for some reason. Usually
Yeah.
the that stuff is flavor text. It's not really um core to the narrative, right? It's
Yeah.
usually just, oh, that a fun little side story, give you some background. No, all that stuff in Hellblade is the story. If you miss those, you are missing out on the story, and you're probably going to be a wee bit confused as to what's actually happening. End of the
Yeah.
day, I really admire a lot of what they were trying to do and what they did, but I honestly felt it was a long 5 hours. That game was a bit of a slog to play. In fact, I almost thought after 90 minutes, I'm like, I probably only have 50 years left on this earth. Do I really want to spend another couple hours with this game? But I pushed through, and I'm glad I did because
That's,
it's there's a lot of stuff I saw that was pretty neat. I like a lot of the various, especially this game's interpretation of hell was pretty good, and it's all Norse mythology too, so that's pretty neat. So,
that is
so
neat.
if you, so if you've seen the Thor movies, you've got a leg up on this because you know who, who Odin is, and Jotunheim, and Hela and the Frost Giants and all that stuff. That's all in there. So,
All right. Well, cool.
hi, Scotty. I was talking about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice,
Yeah.
which I admired, but I didn't really enjoy playing, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and and like you said, it's a good thing it's a short game because we really need
Oh God,
more, more experimental short experiences like that, and because it's a lot easier to justify spending 5 hours on a game we don't quite enjoy but we admire than it is to spend 40 hours on a game we don't quite enjoy but we still admire. Yeah, it's just like you had mentioned before we started the broadcast there that you just can't find the motivation to start up playing Breath of Wild again
right?
because while you admire the game, it's not quite as fun to play as you would like it to be,
Yeah,
and it's just that's a long game to play.
once I'm playing it, I'm fine. But every time I think of starting the game, I think of it's just gonna rain, and I think of the climbing and the horse problems. If you've seen my bad Breath of the Wild videos, small niggling things that add up. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a genuinely good game. I played it for 24 hours straight on the marathon last November, and had a great time doing it. It's a game that once I get into it, I work around the issues. I'm fine, but it's one of those where it's like I should play Zelda. And it's like, but do I really want to put up with the crap? Um, and
yeah,
I think there was some news this week that Monolith Soft is hiring for some Zelda people, so maybe they'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
either assisting or uh, Nintendo seems to be handing out IP like candy. So maybe
Oh yeah,
Monolith Soft is going to be doing the
yeah.
next Zelda.
Because we mentioned last week that because
Cadence
this was
of
on the
Hyrule. Is that the-
Cadence of
Yeah.
Hyrule, and then we've got all kinds of mobile games coming out, and yeah, Nintendo is very open to licensing out their IP now, and which is kind of cool, and I would love to get the license to make a Nintendo property, but yeah, I don't have the street cred to to do so.
As Chaos points out,
Yeah,
maybe it's not as impressive that Nintendo might give the IP to Monolith Soft, being that Nintendo owns
that's
Monolith
true.
Soft. But you know,
They're still a very very
outside the
good
bubble, but
company,
still
and
inside the house.
yeah, but Monolith Soft has proven themselves, and with the games that they have made and released, and so knowing that they're going into and they're making a Zelda game is actually it's comforting, to know that
Monolith
somebody
Soft
of their caliber
makes art.
is making it. Yeah, but yeah, like just like the news that Retro is making a new Metroid Prime game because
Again,
again, because they did a great job with it. Yeah, I just would love to see what else they were working on before before Nintendo said, "We need you to
oh wait,
make
wait, wait, yeah, not
Metroid."
yeah. It wasn't Retro's project that they scrapped. They scrapped the what I don't remember who was working.
Whoever was
Whoever
making
was
it,
working on Metroid Prime 4, they were like, no, give it back to Retro.
yeah,
It ain't working.
yeah,
Speaking of Nintendo, a little bit of Nintendo somewhat kind of news this week. Wall Street Journal is reporting again that Nintendo is going to have not one, but two new Switches this year. A Switch Pro-esque, slightly more powerful edition, and a kind of like the 2DS for your kids edition.
yeah. I saw that news and I was just like, the pro side of it kind of fits in with the new 3DS that they did, where it's like had a
Yeah.
better processor and all that kind of stuff, and it also fits in with the Xbox One S, I think, and the PlayStation 4 Pro, where it's beefier hardware that handles 4K televisions. Yeah, but for Nintendo's purposes, I doubt that they are going to go with 4K support.
No.
It doesn't seem like something that the Switch could even do, even if it were beefed up. But they
My my
might go with a better processor, and maybe they'll go with a 1080p handheld mode with this one.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know what the way it was described, it almost sounds like they're taking the Switch out of the Switch. Like the Pro is just going to be a dedicated home console one, and the Lite or whatever they call it is just going to be the, give it to your kids. Just try
The
to bring.
dedicated
Yeah.
handheld one.
Um, my thoughts would be okay. So the Switch Pro or whatever you want to call it. Um, my guess would be instead of the Joy Cons, they sell it with the Pro controller, and it actually has a hard drive in it, so you can store games.
So what you're thinking is they're just basically going to turn the Switch into a box that sits on your entertainment stand,
It
and
you know it's kind of hard for me to believe that they would take the Switch out of the Switch, because the portability factor is the thing that everybody loves. Because if you
yeah.
don't have the portability, you have the Wii U, which nobody but me loves. That's right,
Yeah.
Wii U. I'm the only one that loves you.
Just imagine a Switch extra large and the screen being as big as an average flat
So,
screen TV.
so
Yeah.
maybe the idea of the Switch Pro would be it'd come with the Pro controller and the base, the dock. I'm sorry, the dock would actually have a hard drive in it, so you can store all your crappy games. You could still
That would be cool.
take the thing out and take it with you, but you might have to do some swapping things in and out of memory. You dock it at the base, you swipe over whatever games you want onto the Switch itself, and then take it with you, rather than
Yeah.
having to carry a collection of micro SD cards with you that try to pull the kickstand out and then get that thing off and then slide. Oh, what a pain in the butt that would be. So maybe something like that, and then for I heard no rumble. Is something
Yeah,
that they're
yeah,
speculating. It's kind of weird that they wouldn't have detachable Joy Cons, but because it seems weird to me that the smaller unit would be. It doesn't come into P. But then again, you already have the regular Switch that does that, so maybe it's okay to, if you want the interchangeable pieces that you can take all over the place, get the regular Switch. If you just
yeah,
want to play at home, get the Pro Switch. If you just play portable, it's in one piece. You're not going to lose the pieces. We took the rumble out of it because no one's really using it that much anyway, so it's a little bit cheaper. We
yeah.
gave a little bit more space, and we made it a bit more sturdy, so your kids will have a little bit more difficult time breaking
Breaking it.
it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You know, a almost exclusively handheld Switch would make sense with basically the end of life that the 3DS is going through right now. The
Hmm.
3DS is pretty much done. I don't think there's any real major releases coming out, or at least the nothing past 2019, anyways. Um, but yeah, and since the Switch is a portable home console, just making it making it a true portable as well, as a separate model makes sense.
Yeah, but since
And
they're both
and
Switches, hopefully it's the
yeah,
same account, and whatever you buy on one, you can play it on the
yeah,
other.
exactly. Hopefully,
If you
yeah,
can't just plug it into a dock and put it on the TV.
yeah. Well, hopefully they keep that docking functionality
Hard to believe they
because
wouldn't. I mean, because it's just a
yeah,
USB-C connection. It's the same thing it's charged with. So,
yeah.
I mean,
So
even if the smaller one is just comes with a charger, if you have a dock, you can plug it into the dock. It may not
yeah,
fit exactly right, but
yeah, and as long
probably some way.
as Nintendo makes it clear that not all Switch games are going to be playable without separate Joy-Con controllers on the portable one, because there are going to be those handful of titles like 1-2 Switch that need
Yeah,
the rumble, that need the detached Joy-Cons in
I would
order to
imagine
play
the
them
Joy.
properly.
Right. I would imagine the Joy Cons would at least still work with it, though.
Yeah,
Even if
yeah,
it's
it would be completely compatible with
yeah.
all of the accessories. So the Pro controller, the Joy Cons, all of that stuff. It's just it'll it just may be made clear that you would need these extra accessories to play some games, and but most games, like you said, would be played with the controllers attached anyways. It's yeah, so yeah, I think that's a good idea. And if they change it up to where it's just those two models on uh on the market, so they're not flooding the market with three different models of the Switch, I think that would make sense. Um,
They're gonna
and
have to be
and would
careful with the naming convention if depending on what these things do and what their purpose is, so that people
Switch Portable and Switch Pro. I don't know.
I mean it's
Yeah,
like
the Switch Lite.
both
That
of
was
them,
the DS.
if
Yeah.
the light doesn't plug into your TV and if the Pro doesn't be portable, can you even call it the Switch if it doesn't switch anymore?
I would assume that the Switch Lite wouldn't come with the dock,
Hmm.
um, but it would be dock compatible still.
Right.
Um, so you could buy the
Docs
standalone dock
$90.
if you wanted it. Um,
A
so yeah,
hard drive so that you can, all those games that you keep buying on the eShop, you can plug it into this to the dock and load it onto the dock's
yeah,
hard.
yeah, and yeah, the Pro would have the hard drive would come with the Joy set of yeah, it would still have to come with the Joy Cons. I can't think Nintendo would release a system without the Joy Cons built in, but
Oh,
also
they're
come bundled with the Pro controller as well.
$50 or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible that they would just do it without 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 the Joy-Cons, but just doesn't seem to make sense in my head, just the way that they've marketed the Switch. But yeah, but if it came with the Pro controller, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, because I really don't like the Joy-Con controllers.
Yeah.
I know I may be in the minority on that one, but I really don't like the Joy-Con controllers. Jordan says, "Wouldn't find it far-fetched that within the next 20 years there will be another game crash and retro consoles start outselling modern consoles." Well, retro consoles like the Genesis Mini, which was just officially announced.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure I see the value of teasing out the list of games, you know, because they're like, "Hey, we've got 40 games." I'm like, "Cool."
Cool. What are they?
But they only give us like 10 of them, and they're 10
Yeah,
pretty solid entries.
yeah. Let's see. We got Echo the Dolphin, Castlevania Bloodline, Space Harrier 2, Shining Force, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Toe Jam and Earl, Comic Zone, Sonic the Hedgehog, Altered Beast, and Gunstar Hero. Yeah, so 10 titles out of 40. So
Not the titles I'd pick for just 10, but those are definitely great titles to have in.
Oh yeah, definitely great titles. And and so
$80.
80, yeah, I think it was $80.
Yeah, so 40 games, 2 controllers, $80. It sounds about average. So
Yeah.
it's gonna depend on the rest of the list, but
yeah, and hopefully
better have Contra Hardcore.
oh yeah. But hopefully they're not they don't pull a Sony and say, give us these 10 good sounding games and then just fill the rest with Bejeweled and her columns and stuff like that. Because seriously, but yeah, there's tons of great games like that. At Games Sega console that I have, it has 30 Genesis games built in, and it's a pretty solid list. Like it has all three. It has 3 Mortal Kombats. It's got both Shining Forces. It's got 1 Fantasy Star, and all 3 are Sonic 1, 2, and 3, I think. And it's got a pretty darn solid list of games. It's just the emulation is terrible.
I think that a lot of that's going to be what it comes down to is how well do these games play.
Yeah, well, and that was one of the reasons why Sega scrapped whatever they were doing before and redid it, because they saw, I think it's because they saw how well Nintendo handled their emulation and how terrible At Games was, because At Games was how they were going with it before, and then they scrapped that because At Games is terrible at what it does. And so I think Sega pulled this all in house, is what I understand, and so hopefully they take a little more care in their emulation, because I haven't played any of their like I keep seeing the Sega Genesis collection for PS3 and Xbox 360 at Walmart, and I keep meaning to buy it because there's a pretty solid selection of 20 games or so on there, but yeah, I would totally love to see what Sega throws out there, but yeah, hopefully everything comes out a lot better, because I know they're going to go with HDMI support. They kind of have to, because Nintendo did that with the NES.
Plug it into the TV.
Yeah, so we got 2 controllers, and unfortunately, the US is only getting the 3-button controllers and not the 4 or 6-button controllers. Japan's getting those, which is kind of annoying, but I don't know how many games use the 6-button controller. But yeah, so I'm kind of excited about it. I want to get one because I just it's I didn't have a Genesis growing up, and and I've played a handful of Genesis games, and it's just, I want to expand my experiences and what I play, because I don't have, there's so many systems that I missed out on.
Yeah.
But
Did you hear about the uh, anniversary, the Konami anniversary collection games bundle?
oh yeah, I saw those, and that was interesting. I forget what all of those were. Let's see, Konami Anniversary Collection.
Yeah, there's let's see, Castlevania, Castlevania 3, Castlevania 2 on the Game Boy, Super Castlevania 4, and then 4 more that they haven't
Yeah,
announced yet, plus a
yeah,
bonus.
we've got the arcade classics,
Mhm.
which Haunted Castle, Ajax, Gradius 2, Life Force, Thundercross, Scramble, and Twin B. Some good games on there. And yeah, you mentioned the
Right.
the
That's the arcade
Castlevania
classics,
one.
the Castlevania, and the other one's the Contra collection, which is Contra, Super C, Contra 3 Alien Wars, and then 4 more, which again they haven't announced
They
yet.
haven't announced yet.
I
Yeah,
still don't know why they did that. Seems weird for these collections just
not tell
to
you
tease
everything.
out
Yeah,
what's in the collection, because I mean,
yeah.
especially something that in some cases is available for pre-order. I mean,
Hmm.
everyone's different, but me, I'm like, dude, if you're not going to tell me what 3/4 of the collection is, I'm just going to sit here and wait till you do.
Exactly. Yeah, and and that was one of the things that I think ticked everybody off with the PlayStation Classic, the PS1 Classic Edition, was because Sony gave us a good tease with the 5 games they initially gave, but then when they announced the other 15, everybody was just like, "That's what you were hiding from us? No wonder you didn't tell us right away." And a lot of people canceled their pre-orders uh, from that, and it's just, it's crazy that they would do that, but I am glad to see Konami doing this, because the Castlevania collection, I would totally get it just based off of the 4 games, 5 games, or whatever that we know
Yeah,
about.
I mean,
Yeah,
sure, but
of course I
the
got most of those already
yeah.
though, so
Well,
that's
the
another thing.
arcade collection, the arcade classics collection, comes out next month for 20
Hmm.
bucks, and that and it makes me wonder: are the other collections going to be 20 bucks too? Because 20 bucks for 8 Castlevania games or 20 bucks for 8 Contra games seems like a pretty good deal. But 20 bucks for these arcade classics to me seems a little steep. Maybe I'm just cheap because these are pretty old games, most of them. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
but
talking
they're
about
pretty
games from
solid
the
games
80s.
though.
They're
It's like
good games,
Life
but
Force. Life Force, I know, has been on a lot of people's top, top shoot 'em ups on whatever console Life Force was on, and Gradius is also people's, on people's top shooters,
mhm.
and I don't know much about any of the other games on there, but
Twin B and Castle are the only ones. Haunted Castle, I know. Twin B, I've seen.
yeah.
But it makes me wonder: are all of them going to be 20 bucks, or if 20 bucks is where they're putting these old classic games? Are the Castlevania and Contra collections
Oh,
going to be
okay.
40?
Haunted Castle just looks like an arcade Castlevania.
Yeah.
Typhoon's another shoot 'em up, a vertical shooter. Thundercross, another shooter,
A
another
lot
shoot
of
'em up.
mostly shooters, but I mean that
Yeah, Scramble, another
I think
shooter,
they're
and
all
Twin
shooters, in
B is
fact.
shooters. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Haunted Castle's the only one that's not a shooter, not a shoot 'em up. But
So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
I
Hey, Konami, how about a pachinko collection where you could
uh,
have the Silent Hill pachinko machine and the Metal Gear Solid pachinko machine? You
uh,
know, give the fans what they want.
man, I wonder if Konami has one
Oh,
more
George is
shoot
already
'em up.
making the pachinko joke.
Yeah, I wonder if Konami has one more shoot 'em up game, because what they could have done was add take Haunted Castle off of the arcade collection,
Put it in
put
the
another shoot 'em up one, and then put Haunted Castle in the Castlevania one. It's just like the game that looks like
it,
Castlevania but
it
isn't.
it looks like it looks like the one that fell into the wrong batch, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It just doesn't seem to fit the arcade classic. I didn't take a deep look at all of these games. I just kind of glossed over them when or glanced over them when I first saw
Yeah.
the news.
Well, I mean, from what we see so far, solid collections of games.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know
Both
this.
the Genesis and the Konami stuff. So
Yeah. And we know this because we're old and we're around when these games first came out. So,
yeah.
in addition
and
to, go ahead.
I was just gonna throw out this other thing. There's a third party Genesis console. It's the Sega or Mega SG. It's from the the people behind the Super NT. But yeah, apparently this is what everybody considers the best third party console out there and for Genesis games. Like it plays all the Mega Drive, the Genesis, Game Gear, and it has the port so you can hook up a Sega CD to it, and so it's just if you don't want to wait for the Genesis Mini, you can get this, but this thing's $190, so that's pretty steep. But you can plug in your actual Genesis controllers in it and everything though. So yeah, I just thought that was something kind of neat that I wanted to point out real quick.
So, Nintendo releases the Nintendo Classic Mini and the SNES Classic Mini, and of course, Sony releases the PlayStation Classic Mini. Sega releases a Genesis Classic Mini. Microsoft says we weren't born yet, so Boongats. But Nintendo is also the leader in another area. Years ago, Nintendo started saying, "Hey, the internet's a thing. We just noticed. So let's do," and they started doing the Nintendo Directs, where little mini shows, basically the 20 to 30-minute commercials that they could give you to show you, a mini E3 several times a year. And Sony and Microsoft both this week just started their own versions of a Nintendo Direct. Sony with its State of Play, which is a fine name, and Microsoft with, hang on,
ID.
hang on. What the? Yeah, ID at Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
Man, Microsoft.
Well, the ID at Xbox
roll off the tongue, doesn't it?
The ID at Xbox is their indie developer at Xbox
program. Yeah, which is awkward in and of itself.
Yeah, and it is very awkward to say, and yeah, it's I applaud their effort, but they should have just called it Game Pass, or the Xbox Game Pass or something like that.
Direct to you. Okay, that makes sense. Sony's State of Play. Oh, I get it. It's a play. I get it. It's like PlayStation, a station where you play. I got it. Yeah, Microsoft ID at Xbox Game Pass. And it's like, what? So I've been reading on the enthusiast blogs. Most people are a little down on ID at Xbox Game Pass and State of Play shows, saying that they don't quite hold a candle to Nintendo Direct. Which, I mean, Nintendo's had a few years to polish the.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I watched them and I thought they were.
Okay. They were serviceable. They did their job.
They were equal to a weaker Nintendo Direct. It's not like all Nintendo Directs are fantastic. Some of them are a little lame. These both were just kind of like the lame Nintendo Directs. I think what stuck out is there wasn't much interesting news. I mean, Nintendo Directs a lot of times are announcements of games, and we'll have a lot of release dates, and you can play this now, or this demo is available right now, and stuff like that. And the Sony and Microsoft didn't have that so much. Although, at least I don't remember if Sony did this, but Microsoft did do a little bit more with, hey,
Let's talk to
let's
the
talk to the
developers. Yeah.
developers, which is something that I like.
Yeah, I
I
enjoyed
know
that
that's
part of it.
for everyone,
I
but
Yeah, because there was that game that
for
the one where the two friends go to hell and then they have to
out
drink the devil under the table. Um, that one, the game sounds interesting,
after
but
life,
I
after
en-
party, something like that.
yeah, After Party, I think is what it's actually called. Yeah. Um, the game sounds interesting, but not quite something I would pick up. But I really enjoyed the passion that the developers had when they were talking about it. It's like they had a vision in mind, they had a goal, they had a message they wanted to share, and they picked one of the weirdest possible ways of expressing their what they had to say, and I thought it was a very interesting interview,
But
and
what
it's like,
struck me was
yeah.
the B-roll footage of the game actually supplemented what the developers were saying.
Hmm.
They were saying this was our vision, and you could see how that vision manifested in the game, and you got a sense of how the game might work.
Yeah,
The other game, the title of which I don't remember, was the same kind of idea with the developers talking about what their lofty goals for the game was. But I watched the footage of the game. I'm like, I'm not really connecting with this, and I'm not clear what you're doing in this game. So I
yeah.
think After
I don't
Party was
remember
a lot.
that one quite
Yeah,
as much.
I think After Party was a lot more successful in that regard. Also,
Yeah,
State of Play was uh
that was about 50 to 60% VR titles, and
yeah, it
it
was
was
mostly
kind of,
VR titles. I'm like,
yeah,
uh, people just don't care. I mean, not,
yeah,
the mainstream doesn't care. It's the niche
yeah.
cares, and I'm glad this is there servicing them.
Well, when State of Play opened up with the Iron Man thing, and I was just like, "Ooh, an Iron Man game!" We
Yeah,
got a really good Spider Man game, and it would be really cool to have a really good Iron Man one. And
mhm.
then it turned out to be a VR game, and I was just like, "Oh, it's going to be a rail shooter.
But
I don't
I
care."
I mean, you would
Yeah,
think. I mean, that it actually sounds like an interesting idea, because the whole idea of
yeah,
the Marvel Cinematic Universe iteration of Iron Man is putting you in the helmet, and they don't seem to be doing anything neat with that fancy heads up display. There's almost no heads up display at all.
yeah.
You
It's
would
just
think that
the disembodied
that would
arms, and that's about it.
yeah, you
Yeah,
would think that having these goggles strapped to your face would be that would be like the hook of the game. You are in the Iron Man suit. But no.
yeah. We didn't get that, and yeah, I
I
was
mean, maybe
disappointed
that
with
would
that.
just be a jumbled bunch of I mean, I look at Tony Stark in the movies, and I'm like, how do you walk without
Well,
walking into a telephone
but
pole? There's so much crap on this.
to this I say Metroid Prime.
Okay.
They did an awesome job with the heads up display being inside of her helmet,
Hmm.
and it's like your energy, your missiles, your all your equipment, your pause menu, everything is just part of her heads up display, and it worked. And and you know that that would work for a an Iron Man game,
One of my
yeah.
a little off topic maybe, but one of my favorite details about Metroid Prime was the four little directional icon. For anyone who doesn't know, you move the control stick up, down, left, and right. The yellow thumb pad on the gamepad, the GameCube gamepad, up,
Mhm.
down, left, or right to switch between the wave beam, ice beam, and whatever the other ones were. And the
Plasma beam,
icon
and
plasma,
yeah,
yeah, right, the icons were like different, um like hand shapes. Like, to switch weapons, she had to make a certain hand shape within the gun gauntlet. um and later in the game, when you get the X-ray visor, if you enable the X-ray visor and then switch between weapons, you can see her hand making the shapes on the icon to switch the weapons. Oh, that's such a cool detail. I love
Yeah,
that.
that is cool.
So, but I was kind of surprised that I don't mind them hitting VR heavy because it's a product of theirs. They want to sell it, and there are
Yeah,
a lot of people who
definitely.
dumped hundreds of dollars in it. And damn it, we want games. Um, but I
Yeah.
was kind of surprised that Gone Days was the only heavy hitter from Sony. And there, I mean, there was no uh, Uncharted 5 or whatever.
Yeah,
There
they
was no Last of Us 2. There were. I
yeah,
guess
they,
they're all
they didn't
saving it for
seem to.
E3, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, the ID at Xbox One, that one is because it was
that
specifically
one's
the indie
specifically indie
developer
games.
thing. The PlayStation, the state of play seemed to be VR heavy with supplemental third party slash indie developed games as well. Um, and I'm trying to think if there was any because they did a No Man's Sky has a VR mode coming. Um, there was a game from Devolver Digital. Was that on? That was the PlayStation one, right? The space station
Uh,
one.
blah, blah, blah. Oh, for crying out loud! The damn it! Even Microsoft got this right. Look! If you're gonna rip off Nintendo Direct, put a list of games in the
In the video description.
video
Yeah.
notes. Damn it! Both,
Yeah,
both Nintendo
exactly.
and Microsoft do that. Sony doesn't. Ugh, Sony. Also,
Yeah.
Sony's visual presentation borrowed borrowed a very similar visual gimmick where you see like a slice of each game, kind of a little preview. Usually, it's
Observation is the name of that game.
observation.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Oh,
that's from Devolver Digital, and that one actually looks really interesting. I would that looks like a game that I would actually want to buy. So, but yeah, I just kind of wish that that their presentation was better because I think this was just the state of play one was just a bunch of trailers, wasn't it? And I don't recall any hosts.
mostly, yeah.
Mostly,
Um, there were not an on-camera host. They had a
they
voiceover
had a voiceover. Yeah.
host, and which is
Okay.
fine because
Yeah.
I mean, in Nintendo, usually the hosts range from stilted to stilted, but kind of adorable. Um, the Xbox ID at Jesus, those two were just kind of awkward. It was the first
Yeah.
one. Give them some time. They weren't adorkable. They were just but uh,
Yeah.
but I mean, listen to the dialogue that they had to read. It was trying a bit too hard, I think. And then Sony's was
Probably.
just uh, announcer was fine, but there was no personality. There was no let's talk to the fans. Sony's just comes off more as straight commercial, whereas Nintendo and now Microsoft's really comes off as a let's talk to our customer base about what we're doing and what
Yeah.
you guys are going to be playing. Sony's came off more just flat out commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
Which is a legit. I mean, they are commercials, so it's a legitimate way to do it. It's like, hey, let's just drop the pretense. It's a commercial. Um, but
Yeah. Definitely.
eh, you know,
But yeah, it was still nice to see because
they were all 15 minutes long. It's not like sitting through a 2 hour Sony E3 press conference or an hour and a half EA.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, they serve their purpose. They put a bunch of games in front of my face that I didn't know about prior to this, which I think was good because I don't typically just watch game trailers, like because I went to PlayStation's channel to look at these videos, and I know on PlayStations they had like 20 or so trailers after published after the State of Play,
Yeah.
and it's just like, I don't watch those things. I don't really care about all of these trailers, but
When I remember, I go to
yeah,
Nintendo's site and just look at what the recent trailers are, just to
yeah,
just to try and keep abreast of what is out there. Even
yeah,
though I'll probably never play it because I'm not big on digital games.
yeah. But something like this, I will press play on one of these, move the window to my second screen, and have it playing while I'm doing other things on my computer. And but like a 3-minute trailer, I won't do that for, because it's just like, because I'd have to close that window, go pick another video, and it's too much work to watch a series of 3-minute trailers, when it's a lot easier, just click play on a 15-minute video and let it run in my peripheral vision. But but yeah, I'm see, we got a few months before E3, but yeah, we'll see how things go. But yeah, hopefully Microsoft and Sony do more of these, because I do enjoy them. I like the Nintendo Direct. I watch it when sometimes live, most of the time not, but I like watching them because they're very informative. They help me know what to expect, and hopefully they get me excited about picking up the next video game consoles, because I don't have them yet. And it'll be a while.
Yeah. So, we were going to talk about the EU Article 11 and 13 thing, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
getting
getting
late.
late.
I'm starving, and why end the show on stuff that's just going to make us irritable? Maybe we'll. Are we going to pay attention to the Star Wars Celebration event? Uh, is that soon? Is it now? Is it this week?
I don't know. I
I will
don't.
pay attention to the news that comes out of it, but
Yeah, I'll probably read what Polygon
yeah,
and IO9 and stuff like that publish about it.
I
But
mean, I
yeah,
imagine we'll at least get the title and release date if we don't have it already for episode.
I think we already have the
I haven't
release date. We don't
the
have the
date's probably
title.
penciled in. We don't have the title. I think there were some posters that leaked. Don't that they looked good. Had I think C3PO had a bowcaster. I'm like, all right,
Oh yeah.
that looks good.
He had Chewie's bandolier and bowcaster, as well as apparently Ray's staff.
Oh, did he?
So
I didn't look at
yeah,
it that carefully, but that was the thing that stood out to me. Also, Kylo has his mask again, and he seems to have like the Knights of Ren behind him. So
yeah.
okay, yeah, but C3PO is going to start shooting some dudes. I
Hey,
am there for that. But you
well,
know, I will probably get a.
maybe he becomes a bounty hunter, and that's what the thing is. So
There you go. Yeah, R2D2 gets killed, and C3PO falls into
goes
a
on a rampage. Yeah.
rampage. Do you
That would.
think what's her face from Solo movie, the droid that's now part of the Millennium Falcon,
Oh,
L3?
yeah, Leet. L
No,
three three
L337.
seven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think she'll ever come back, like as the ghost of
Probably
Limitation?
not.
Because
I don't
I
know.
hope so, because that's horrible. I don't think they were thinking that one through when
Probably
they wrote
not.
that.
Yeah, it's just like, let's write a role for a robot that's all about robot independence and rights, and then turn
And then
her into a
trap
slave at
her
the
into a
end of
ship
the.
for
Yeah,
eternity.
yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Nice, very
I
nice.
don't think they thought that one through.
No, they didn't. But
Um, oh,
I still love the Tales of the Bounty Hunter book with IG-88, and how he becomes the the brain inside of the second Death Star.
Ooh, I don't think I was aware of that.
Yeah, it's one of the extended universe books where it's like a story about all of the bounty hunters that Darth Vader hires in Empire Strikes Back, and they tell the story of IG-88, and they explain that IG-88 is actually like 6 robots, which explains why he shows up in multiple places throughout the 3 movies. But yeah, and then at the end he installs his intelligence inside the second Death Star, and it's great. I loved it. That one was my favorite story out of the entire out of that entire set of stories. But yeah,
All right, well, time to sign off. So
yep.
let's plug our stuff and go. So Andrew Eisen here. Eisen is how you spell the last name. Plug it into YouTube and you'll find all my videos. Find some of my old videos and then make comments like it's a new video. You know, old videos where I speculate about stuff, just drop comments on there and tell me what happened years ago that I don't know because I wasn't paying attention because I lost interest or something.
Yeah.
Or follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen, which you should do because I'm a lot more active there. Because taking the time to write 280 characters or less is something I have the time for. Sometimes actual videos take me a lot longer. So, oh, and
Yeah.
I'm looking at my news feed here, and you know the new Child's Play movie, uh,
Hmm.
the one that's like Chucky is now a robot or something instead of a possessed doll. You know they just announced who's doing the voice?
Who?
Mark Hamill.
Really?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
That is very
So
interesting.
you'll at the very least get a good maniacal laugh out of him.
Yeah.
So
They need to have a. I just looked at my homepage on YouTube, and there's a trailer for Annabelle Comes Home, one
yeah,
of
I
those
watched that
horror
earlier. It
movies,
looks fine.
and they need to have an Annabelle versus Chucky movie. Um,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
uh,
it's its own Conjuring universe, so they'll probably
yeah,
do Annabelle versus the spooky nun first. Oh, isn't the
the
La
Nun.
Llorona the ghost woman who drowns your children that just came out?
Yeah,
I think that's
that's
Conjuring
in that
universe too.
universe too.
So
Yeah, yeah, lots of good stuff. I love these extended universes. They're great.
everything must be an extended universe.
Yeah. Oh, but I am looking forward to the new Godzilla movie. It's looking good. Uh,
Yes, got
yeah,
monsters.
it's got lots of monsters in it, and it looks like it'll be a lot more exciting than the last one. That one, the last one was just kind of it was fun, but it was also
All right.
boring.
It did a
And I
lot. It did a lot. What I particularly admired about the movie, especially in the third act, the Godzilla movie from 2014 or something like
Yeah, it was
that,
2014.
was that they gave reason for the stupid people to be running around underfoot. A good, compelling reason for them to be underfoot. You know, there's a bomb that's going to explode and level the city and Godzilla and the Muto and everything else. So we have to handle that while trying not to get stepped on. I'm like, that
Yeah,
was pretty good. Because normally you're like, just run, dude.
yeah, but the biggest thing that I hated, and I think it was what everybody hated, was the fact that every time it looked like we were going to get a good fight scene, it cut to a TV watching the fight, and
Yeah, you
that,
get one of those,
yeah,
buddy. You don't get to do that throughout the entire movie because then you just frustrate your audience.
yeah. But this new one looks like it's just going to be monster on monster,
Wall to wall monster
wall
fight.
to wall monster fights, and monsters versus people. Looks like they're going to have some like Rodan versus Air Force type stuff, and which will be kind of cool. So
What I'm kind of hoping happens is there's a shot where Rodan's flying and there's like jets flanking him,
yeah,
and I I'm kind of hoping that like one of the jets like fires at him, and Rodan just kind of dude, it just kind of side eyes us like, what?
Yeah.
Not doesn't even retaliate. Just kind of gives them a look like, what are you even doing? Dude, bug off.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Zach, look away.
All right. All right. You can follow me on Twitter at Easy Night, where I talk about gaming, politics, and movies and other things that interest me. You can also follow my game development work at DK_gaming on Twitter, divinenightgaming.com. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, check out OK Game Devs on Twitter and okgamedev.com.
All right. You've been dutifully listening to the 140th episode of Molehill Mountain, the podcast. Thank you. And hope you'll be back next week for 141.
Yeah.
Then it is time for sushi.
All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
Goodbye.